Hello, hello. Good to see you. Welcome to a special and life-saving edition of the Immigrant Magazine Weekly. Why do I say life-saving? Are you, like me, confused by the bombardment of conspiracy theories surrounding vaccines and clinical trials? Well, my guest today will set that straight for us. He is a clinical research professional who says Black Americans are underrepresented in clinical trials, and that's a problem. And he's here to tell us why. Van Johnson is the Vice President of Business Development and Global Alliances at Benchmark Research. A trusted leader in the industry, Benchmark Research has conducted over 1,000 trials to study vaccines with over 40,000 participants, with clinics all across America, from Texas, Louisiana, and California. I'm so happy to have him on the show today so that we can set the record straight, because I have taken my vaccine, but I'm still worried about the long-term effects. But if we never volunteer to do the clinical trials or take the vaccine, how are we going to know if it's good for us or future generations? So this show is not just about you, it's about the future of the race of people of African descent. Before I bring him on, please do me the honors. If you haven't subscribed yet, do that right now by clicking on the subscribe button right here below, and also ringing the notification bell so that you will be notified when we bring you these kinds of valuable content. Not forgetting the like button, click on it so that YouTube will share the information and share a video with everyone. And of course, be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Anchang, and like me on Facebook at The Immigrant Magazine. Thank you for joining me for this very important conversation. So welcome to the show, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I read your article and published it on immigrantmagazine.com. The title is Dispel Myths About Clinical Trials and Vaccines to Protect the Black Community. And I know you spoke about the fact that African Americans, like you said, were not involved in clinical trials and all of this stuff. And I thought to myself, I am from Africa, and there are lots of people of African descent. And for some reason, I don't know, we share the same fears. I don't know what it is. So it was nice to have someone of African descent speak to us. So before we go into that, I want you to tell our audience a little bit about yourself as a clinical research professional, right? Did I get it right?
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
definitely. So I am Vice President of Business Development and Global Alliances for Benchmark Research. Benchmark is the industry leader in vaccine clinical research, although we do a number of other indications. We are the industry leader for vaccine clinical research. I've been with Benchmark about 4 years now, 6 years total in the industry. Very passionate about it, very passionate, even passionate on a number of different levels, but definitely for the minority community and the African American community specifically.
Yeah, I'm sure Benchmark is not just doing work for African Americans, but you did see that there was a lagging behind in the African American community. So what prompted you to want to speak up in this way?
Well, looking at it from the perspective of if a drug is made, whether it be for diabetes, whether it be for any type of indication, especially being COVID, it's typically been made for years. The subjects for years have been white males, middle-aged or older white males. And the problem with that is the drug is not made for just middle-aged white males. If it was, that would be great. But there is some differences in the genetic makeup of all of us. Of course, we're all human. There's definite similarities, but there's things that are different with all of us. And it's those subtle differences that can make a huge difference. You know, the difference may be subtle, but it can be very huge in how that particular medicine, how that particular vaccine affects other individuals. And what we don't want to do, we don't want to, not be a part of the initial process. And then that drug is made for that particular problem, sickness, indication, what have you. And then it has what's called adverse impact because it was made measuring someone else and not us or not people in totality.
Let's give a practical example because I'm getting somewhere. I'm seeing what you're saying. For example, I grew up in Cameroon and I have family in Cameroon. And I do have cousins, for example, relatives of mine that have, for instance, sickle cell. Let's say some research was done, a clinical research, and we didn't have sickle cell patients. Because from what my understanding, I think white folks don't have sickle cell. I don't know, but so say something that is particular to our race.
Right, exactly.
Right? How would something or the lack of us participating affect us?
It'll affect us in that particular drug is or medication, treatment, what have you, is being measured on someone else. The results that are coming back, everything that's coming back is saying this is what will solve this particular problem. But because it was measured on someone else, it causes or takes care of that particular problem in this population of individuals. When you can take this same medicine that worked great on this guy over here and apply it to someone else, it can work totally different. It may not work at all, or it may have what we call adverse impact. Instead of helping, it hurts. And this is the reason, and I totally understand why there are so many that are apprehensive for getting into or clinical trials and being part of clinical trials. But we need to understand the fuller picture of why it's being done and why we need to be a part of it. We need to basically be stakeholders in our own health.
But let me ask
continue, I'm sorry,
Mr. Johnson. Before we get to that, first of all, what is the structure of a clinical trial? Because when we hear clinical trials, if I think about growing up in Cameroon, like, oh, you want to try it on me? And, like, I'm not going to be too eager. So we kind of have this mindset that, oh, white folks take risk, right? That's culturally speaking, how we see things. So before we get into why it's important, what does a clinical trial feel like and look like for me to be confident or feel inclined to participate?
Okay. I'm an individual that likes to be totally transparent. And I'll be honest with you, to some degree, it is taking a risk when you are in a part of a clinical trial. However, there is something called informed consent. They will let you know everything that they know about that particular compound, that particular medicine up front. So you'll have and you're going in with your eyes wide open. You know that there may be some form of risk. You'll know potentially what that risk could be. And then you make a determination from that point. Here's where it gets kind of murky for some folk. You don't want to take the risk to be a part of making sure that this medicine works for you, but you'll take the risk taking the medicine after it's been, put on everyone else and said, oh, it works. It may work for them. It may not work for you. And because we're not part of that process, we're taking a risk when we take it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It would be nice for the clinical trial to say, okay, 40,000 participants and broken down Blacks, Latinos or white folks or different races. And so you know that it was measured on people like you. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. I think it's very important to know to some degree that this is for me. It may not be made for me, but I know I being our race, our population, our genetic makeup, whatever the case, we had a part in this. So I know that when it works, it can work better for me as opposed to having tried it on someone else. It's like just because that person over there liked chocolate ice cream, I may taste it and it's terrible to me, but I know initially because I tried it. We need to be stakeholders in our own health.
That is amazing. So now you wrote in that article, and I'm going to read the sentence saying that as you observe hesitancy from the Black community, they presume Tuskegee is the barrier. So my question to you, are they wrong? Is it coming from who's doing the research, presuming that that is a barrier, or is it the volunteers that are presuming? So who's this, who are you speaking to?
Both sides. And here's why I say that. To some, Tuskegee is going to always be the issue. But what I'm finding is that there are a lot of young people that either don't know about Tuskegee, never heard about Tuskegee, or don't know much about it. That's not necessarily their hesitancy. That's not the reason they're hesitant for taking the vaccine. But what I find is, and what I was referring to in the article and what I heard someone else say, is that a lot of times when you have the researchers to call and try to what we call screen people to see will they be a part of it, when they get hesitancy from someone in the African American community, we don't dig deeper to see why they're hesitant. We just assume that because they're hesitant, oh, it must be because of Tuskegee, and they check it off. And this is why I say in a lot of cases, we may be in touch, but we're not in tune. Just because you reached out and touched these people and had a conversation with these people, do not mean that you're in tune with exactly why they're hesitant and what their whole perception of clinical trials is. And until we begin to have conversation, until we begin to dig deeper, we'll never know. And that conversation and digging deeper really has to start at an even higher level. I mean, it's the pharmaceutical companies when they write protocol. Is it written with us in mind? Is it written with the minority community in mind? So there's a number of different ways we have to begin to look at this, a number of different ways we must begin to attack this problem.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of us don't even know what Tuskegee is about. I've read about it, but I really don't get this grasp of it. What is the story behind the Tuskegee experiment and how things have changed now?
Okay. In short, basically, it was a syphilis program. There were a number of men in that era at that time who either had syphilis or didn't have syphilis, and they were part of the program. Excuse me. And what they did was they told them that there was, giving a bad blood, taking care of a bad blood disease or something like that. And what they were doing, as opposed to trying to treat them and cure it, they were seeing how syphilis affected them. So they didn't even, excuse me, they didn't even bother to try to cure the syphilis. They knew they had syphilis and intentionally left them with the syphilis so that they can see how syphilis affects the body. And even after a cure or a treatment came out for syphilis, they still didn't even go back and treat these individuals. And this is why I feel that we have to really be a part in the process and be educated in the process, because they weren't. And if we know upfront exactly what's going on, if we are a part of it, if we are a voice in it, it can definitely be better for us and our health overall.
Wow, that explains a lot. But I'll tell you what, I don't know if you've talked to people from the Caribbean or African immigrants or from Black British. I'm sure the experience is different. What typically do you think is the reason for the hesitancy besides Tuskegee?
Aside from Tuskegee, I believe a lot of it is lack of knowledge. And you asked the question earlier, what does a clinical trial look like? In many cases, it looks just like going to the doctor. Mm-hmm. Most clinical trial sites are set up just like a doctor's office, because it is a doctor's office. You have a doctor, you have nurses, and they're there actually doing a full workup. And the beautiful part about this is that I think there was a story of an individual who went in to be a part of a clinical trial. And because with this, with the clinical trial, you get a full medical workup up front, depending upon what the drug is, the study is, how it's designed. And even though they went in for a study dealing with something else, because they got that full medical workup, they found out they had cancer. Oh, wow. And because they were part of the trial, they found out very early, reported it to their primary care physician, and was able to take care of it up front. So there are a number of different benefits. That's one of the benefits. Other benefits could be, a lot of times you're paid to be a part of the clinical trial. It could be altruistic benefits. You just want to help mankind. I mean, there's free healthcare is another thing. So there are a number of reasons that we can be a part of it, but hesitancy is because we don't know that. Part of it is a lack of awareness of clinical research opportunities, not even knowing that it's out there. One thing that I find with the young African American and other minority populations is a total mistrust. And a lot of people think it's a mistrust of the big pharma, pharmaceutical company, and that's part of it. But that mistrust runs so much deeper. It's a mistrust of the healthcare system as a whole. It's a mistrust of our system of laws. It's a mistrust of law enforcement. It's a mistrust of doctors. I mean, there's just so many levels of mistrust to people that are not like us. And there are so many things that have caused this mistrust. Healthcare, just like these other entities, just like the Justice Department, just like others, have to address it on their level. And it's no different with pharma. It's no different with healthcare. We must address the issue. We must understand the hesitancy and let them know. And you asked the question also, what has changed? There's a number of regulations that have been put in place, a number of agencies, and it kind of, it's kind of funny, not funny to me when I hear them say, it's a conspiracy. And I'm thinking, there's no way all these different entities got together and said, hey, let's make a vaccine to hurt a particular race. It's just not possible. There are so many entities, so many agencies that have to look at it, have to approve it, have to authorize it, have to make sure it's safe, have to make sure it's, so many things that have to be done to make sure that this is safe, make sure that it's not going to hurt anyone, make sure that we don't have the adverse impacts. If we have them, what they are, report all that. There's so many things in place to make it safe. Again, it's lack of education. We must get the word out and let them know.
Absolutely. That's why we're sitting here. So let's talk about COVID, for instance, right now. My son came to me and said, oh, Mom, I had been selected to do, to be, not a trial, but like one of those that would start the vaccine or something. He was he's 20 now. But anyway, okay. And I remember like hesitating, but he was great. But they promised him a payday. He was going to be paid for that. And it never happened anyway. And he's taken his vaccine and stuff. But I can tell you, I was afraid. Like many people, everyone was concerned that, it had been prepared too quickly and distributed too fast and all of that. So, and I know it's been repeated over and over, but tell us why this Pfizer or Moderna or all these vaccines are okay or not.
Excellent question. Thank you so much. The thing that I too have heard, they rushed it. It was done so quick. The fact of the matter is COVID is not new.
Oh.
Many people are just becoming aware of it. This particular strain that happened in 2019 is why it's called COVID-19. No. It's been around. Yeah, it's been around. A lot of people are not familiar with, or maybe familiar with MERS and SARS, those particular viruses that's another strain of a coronavirus. Yeah. COVID-19 is just a different strain, like you're hearing now about the UK strain and the African strain and other strains that are coming out. It's no different. So the vaccine that was made for MERS, the vaccine that was made for SARS was tweaked a bit and used for COVID-19. And now like Moderna and Pfizer and others are tweaking their vaccine for these new strains or testing to see if the vaccine that's out now will work on the UK strain and the other variants that come out. It's not new. It's just been tweaked for the new variant. So it hasn't been rushed. It appears that it's been rushed. And, I don't want to get into politics and things of that nature. It was rushed from the perspective of we already had, let's just say, a base, and we took that base and kind of adjusted it for the new strain of the coronavirus that came out.
I like that. It sounds to me like I'm making my stew and I decide, okay, now I want to add some fish and shrimp. I want a gumbo out of it, right?
I love it. You already had the stew, but now excellent analogy. Excellent analogy. Thank you.
But I'm really hoping that people grasp it, because I've heard highly educated people,
yes,
even scientists, yes. And so it throws us off, because you're like, if this person feels this way, maybe there's something to it. And so how can we tweak? How can we put the message? What should we be telling people out there about, why they should participate and the dangers, final word, of not participating?
Thank you. Pamela, one thing I think we need to do is probably put you out there and give that stew analogy, because I think so often The pharmaceutical company, clinical research trials, whatever, we use the big words that we know in the office or that we know in the lab or that we know at our sites. We need to learn, again, it's all about education, and we need to make it plain for those that we want to get into our sites, for those that we want to get into our clinical trials. We need to in layman's terms, basically. That's something I think that we need to do to help, because again, we need to educate them. And if you have someone here who may have taken life sciences, yeah, you can talk to them on that level and they get it. But if you're just talking to the average Joe who barely knows what a clinical trial is, you don't want to go into and try to have a conversation with them using a lot of clinical trial jargon. You need to make it plain. And I think that's part of the education process, not just giving them the information, but taking the information and giving it to them in a manner in which they can fully understand it. Basically, break it down.
Oh, you've been so amazing. So if someone wanted to participate in the clinical trial, where do we begin?
Well, there are a number of great companies out there that you can reach out to in your area. If you are in, we have 2 sites in California, 4 in Texas, 2 in Louisiana. So you can definitely go to www.benchmarkresearch.net. If you're in the area of either of our sites, you can see what type of clinical trials we have available, and we'd be more than happy to have someone on our team speak with you. I think it's very important for us to really begin to again take stake in our own healthcare.
I like that. So take stake in our own health. If we participate, we perish because
people perish for lack of knowledge.
Amen. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, any final words?
One other thing I'd like to say, and hats off to our leadership team at Benchmark Research. A lot of companies, whether it be pharmaceutical companies, CROs, who are kind of like middlemen, and even sites like us, a lot of sites have just gotten on what I like to call the diversity bandwagon because of COVID. One thing I really appreciate about the leadership, Mark Lacey, who is our CEO, and other leaders in Benchmark Research, diversity has been something that has been key for a while now. And I definitely applaud them, hats off to them for that. And we have made sure that we make people of diverse backgrounds feel comfortable by having a diverse staff. Our PIs, which are the doctors, we have a diverse staff of PIs, a diverse staff in the office. There are a number of different languages that are spoken. And the reason why I think that's important is because a lot of times, right, wrong, and different doesn't matter. It is what it is. Sometimes you feel more comfortable with and around your own.
That's true.
So if you want people of a particular nationality, a particular culture, a particular background to be a part of your clinical trial, maybe you need to have someone who they can relate to of that same background, that same culture, that same nationality.
Just like
I definitely applaud them for that.
Just like we're doing now. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
And we will take the word out there, and hopefully maybe the next do trials come, or do you have to go on the website and see what trials are coming on, or do they make announcements about them and you can hear about them and enroll yourself?
Awesome question. Well, a lot of times sites like ours, if we have the population within our database, a lot of times we call those that we already know that want to be a part of it. If there are instances where we may need more people because this is an indication where maybe we don't have a lot of people who have signed up for this particular study, that particular study, there may be radio advertising, there's social media advertising, and of course, sometime even TV. But if it's something that you're interested in, don't wait to hear from us. Let us hear from you. Give us a call and head to our website, see what types of studies we have out there, sign up or call. We'd be more than happy to be very specific. We'd be more than happy to educate you on it. We'd be more than happy to let you know that you're doing something absolutely amazing.
Well, this has been absolutely amazing, and I'm grateful to you for doing this amazing work and representing us, because now when I'm speaking to you, I'm more confident because I see that I have my own representing, and so they are not going to Tuskegee us. We're okay.
I like that. They will not Tuskegee us.
So thank you so much for taking time to educate us, and we'll put the word out there. Thank you, and have a wonderful time doing good work.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you so much for being part of the cause.
My pleasure. Take care. We've come to the end of our show. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I would love to hear what you think about our discussion. So please share your thoughts in our comment section or send me an email to publisher@immigrantmagazine.com. Now be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram @Anchang and like us on Facebook, The Immigrant Magazine. See you next time on The Immigrant Magazine Weekly.